Thank you for staying with us here on Flow 94.9 FM, the flow of God's own state. It is the platform, the pinnacle of all discussions, the very last edition for the week, and of course the first edition, so to say, the second edition for the month of November. Electionary periods beget promises in quantum. What is left to be seen is if these promises would ever materialize or see the light of the day. One would ask, how can we ascertain candidates with true intent of change and betterment of the citizens, having seen a lot promised and failed in time past? But then it is when the right questions are asked in moments like this that we foresee what could become of the future. The campaigns have gotten into its full swing, and now we can assess what has become of it so far. That will of course be the focus on the platform, the pinnacle of all discussions this morning. My name is Wisdom Thomas. Joining me to look at this very issue is Dr. Eugene Nwoha, member of Ukwa La Ngwa Council of Elders. He is live here in the studios. Good morning to you, Dr. Eugene.
Good morning, Mr. Wisdom. Good morning, our listeners. You're welcome.
And of course, joining us virtually will be Dr. Max Ndwagibe, who is the leader of Ukwa La Ngwa Council of Elders. He will be joining the conversation. But let's get into the swing of things, Dr. Max. I mean, before now, we have always been saying the campaigns only started off. We haven't seen so much of the different parties. I'm asking at this very point, what do you make of the approach of the candidates at this very point? It's 23 days or more after the commencement of GOBA campaigns across the nation.
Mr. Wisdom, for me, I would say so far so good. The campaigns have been running smoothly. We have not heard of serious breaches, either in terms of campaign arena or those who are also making consultations. So 23 days into the campaign, I will give the political parties a pass mark. So far so good.
And of course, joining us at this point is Dr. Max Ndwagibe, leader of Ukwa La Ngwa Council of Elders. He is part of the conversation virtually. And of course, this is Umunata, half hour on Flow FM. So, Dr. Max, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I've gotten the verdict of Dr. Eugene Nwoha. What do you make of the approach of the different candidates so far? I mean, 2 weeks or even more since the campaigns took the center stage. How impressed are you?
I think I'm equally impressed, just like Dr. Nwoha said, I'm equally impressed. There has been no significant disruption, in terms of the way things are going, in terms of violence, in terms of. So I am very, very pleased, that the parties are conducting themselves, very well. The candidates also are conducting themselves so far so good, I think.
Okay, let's go on a very short break. When we make a return, we'll have other questions on the front burner to react to. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. It is still the platform, the pinnacle of all discussions here on Flow 94.9 FM, the flow of God's own state. I've been speaking with Dr. Max Ndwagibe, leader of Ukwa La Ngwa Council of Elders, and Dr. Eugene Nwoha, member of Ukwa La Ngwa Council of Elders. Let us get into the conversation real quick now. Talking about the campaigns, that it has been more about advising the candidates to go with issue-based campaigns, not to do name calling. There shouldn't be violence, and then all that. What do you make of what you have seen so far in that aspect? Have they been touching on the issues, challenges of the state?
Yes, I think like Dr. Ndwagibe has just said, we have been very much impressed that the candidates across board, across all the political parties, have been dwelling on the issues we have always talked about, the issues of infrastructure, the issues of revival of our industries and even building new ones, human capital development, and the issues of payment of worker salaries and pensions. But you know, always talk is cheap. We want to see how some of these candidates will convince the electorates that they have the master plan to address these issues that will take Abia forward. And in our own area, we have always encouraged two of our candidates, Engineer Wafa and Professor Ikone, to always re-strategize and make sure that they focus on these very issues that will convince the electorates all over Abia State to vote massively for them.
Dr. Max, he mentioned talk is cheap. I mean, electorates will argue that they have had so much before now, and then it is easier said than done. But how should Abians and, of course, the electorates get to pinpoint any of these candidates who have the intentions of bettering the state, doing massive projects in terms of infrastructure and other things, the myriads of problems challenging the state?
I think that the electorate will judge from what they hear the candidates say. And if the candidates come with facts and figures to convince the electorate that they know what they're talking about, I'm sure that the electorate will imbibe, the messages that are being given to them. But I think the problem is that, politicians are more used to rambling about, promises and promises, promises that we have had for so long, insulting repetition, of these promises. And until they depart from that, I don't think they will be convincing a lot of people, because, people will be saying, look, we've had all these things all these years, the same stories being retold, by different persons and in different words, but they are basically the same stories. So the people are not convinced, by hearing that I will do this, I will do that. They want to hear how you are going to do it. They want to present them with facts and figures of how you are going to proceed. You see, the problem with Abia State, let us face it, the problem with Abia State has been do I call it, is a systemic problem of a way of doing things. Let me say it this way. When the military was in power, the military took over everything. They were autocrats, they were dictators, so the money that flew into the state, were more or less dispensed by them, as if they were personal resources, personal money. And it went like that, throughout the military interregnum. So Nigerians got to, particularly here in Abia State, we got to look at it as if it is a normal thing, that should happen. So Ojozo came, used the same military system, colonized, the resources of the state, appointed...
That's according to you, Dr. Max, because it was a governorship, it was democracy, so to say. It wasn't military, was it? Now,
if you allow me to explain what I want to say, I'm not indicting anybody. I'm just trying to explain a situation.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, when he came, he inherited that same system. He didn't change it. So monies, were seen as personal and were dispensed, as personal. Decisions were taken, by one or two, persons around the governor, and it continued like that. So you couldn't see effective dispensation of infrastructures, social amenities. You couldn't really see that. Now, after him came T.A. Oji. The same system continued. After T.A. Oji came, the same system continued. Now, we cannot get out of this without changing that system. We cannot. Let me give you an example. I don't know how old you were when Mbako was governor of Abia, Imo State at that time, which comprised of Imo now, Abia today, and parts of Ebonyi. And within 4 years, Mbako was able to make a mark in all the states, in all the provinces, all the local governments of the then Imo State. How did he do it? He employed people who are knowledgeable in their various fields of endeavor and made them commissioners. Now today, what do you see? You see a governor picking boys, more or less from the street, and making them commissioners. They have nothing to contribute. In fact, they can't even advise the governor. It is even the governor that will be advising them because they know absolutely nothing. At the time Mbako was governor, he employed people, reasonable people, professionals, and handed over the various ministries, to them.
Okay.
Within 4 years, they made a mark in their various ministries. You saw, in fact, Abia said, Imo State then, was turned to a kind of, what's the word now, a kind of work yard, we had jobs, projects were going on simultaneously everywhere. Okay. It is because of that way, that way of management. If we don't change the system, inherited from the military, whosoever you bring will not perform beyond what others have done before him.
Dr. Marx is saying it's a systemic problem. Dr. Moha, issues surrounding the state from indebtedness, salary to, we've had some of the candidates call the state capital a glorified village and all that. But where should the focus of the next administration be on in terms of ameliorating the sufferings of the people of Abia State? What do you think their focus should be?
Yes, for me, I think the next administration, at least we are going to have a brand new governor in any party that wins. They should look at human capital development, and that area requires the revival of public schools in particular, because you can't do much if the people are not educated. So in as much as they are looking at roads, they should look at human capital development, revival of industries to create employment for the teeming youths. And agriculture also is an employment generating sector. We had farm settlements that were abandoned. We have palm oil zones, belts, that have been abandoned. So we have to be very specific this time in our demand, Things like cassava production should be enhanced so that people can have food. Right now, we're already having food crisis. You can see it. Almost a bag of rice is hitting 50,000 now. So we need to improve our agricultural sector. So these are the areas I want the people campaigning to give us roadmap on how they are going to tackle these areas. Infrastructure, yes. Roads, yes. They are very, very important. But let me also point out that the study we did recently showed that 2 local governments, Ukwa La Ngwa South and Arochukwu local government, are the worst in terms of road infrastructure. So any new governor coming now should look at these 2 local governments, Ukwa La Ngwa South and Arochukwu local government. It's a verifiable study.
From what Dr. Eugene is saying, the work of the next governor is cut out. Dr. Marx, the issue of salary not being paid when it's due, backlog here and there, issues between the different institutions in the state. Now that brings to question the issue of IVR, internally generated revenue. What do you think the next governor should do in this aspect to increase what is gotten from within? The current administration focused on Aba, where they said it's the cash cow, it's the best place to get as much fund as the state needs, that is putting aside what comes from the federal government.
You see, the issue of unpaid salaries, unpaid pensions and all that. You see, we've been hearing these things for the past 10 years, if you like, but let me say 8 years. When Okezie Ikpeazu came on board, he denied, that the state was not owing workers. Then a few months after, he accepted that the state, was owing workers, So you see, then under his supervision, the state received monies, from the federal government. I'm talking about, the reform, the Paris reform, the loans, that were taken, and we were told at that time too that they were all meant, to pay up salaries and pay up pensions and all that, so that the state will not owe anybody again. But what it is, we're still talking about the same owing workers, owing pensioners. Now, you see, like I said, none of these persons will succeed in telling us what is reasonable unless they start with reshuffling the system. The system imprisons them. The system makes it impossible for them, to act independently, to act, with freedom. They must, you see, that is why we are worried about the issue of, endorsement this, anointing this, and so forth and so on. That changes nothing. What we're going to look at today is the ability of the individual to be able to do what is right, in this state. Now, for you to be the ability of the individual. Now, for you to understand the ability of the individual, you have to look at his own past too. How did he come on board? How was he brought in? If it is the same system that brought others, then forget it. He's not going to do anything meaningful.
Then forget it. He's not going to do anything meaningful. Let us get our listeners involved at this very point. One more question for them before we leave this segment. It's a double header in terms of the platform this morning, and we are in the first half. Call out 0808 1826 949 or 0811 949. What do you make of the discuss this morning? Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Your name and location.
The journalist in the house.
No.
They are guests in the house.
Thank you very much. Go ahead for correcting yourself. Go ahead.
First of all, I respect my senior brother, my uncle, Dr. Max Ukwa La Ngwa. I give him comment for all the good things he has been saying. I've been following his program. My name is Aposman as usual. Are you with me?
Go ahead.
Hello?
We can hear you vividly. Go ahead. You do not have time.
Okay, I just mentioned the two local government that has worst road. Aruchukwu, my local government, has the worst road. So far as Abia State is concerned. And I have been begging this government on this platform, which you can bear me witness. Let them come and assist us in the little way. Let them forget about the federal road. We still have state road. How can some a politician, those people who call themselves politician, will be traveling all the way from Akwa Ibom down to Aruchukwu? The same Akwa Ibom is the same governor, the same government appointee like them
now.
Consulted the Akwa Ibom. No, let me just summarize, my brother. So talking of the commissioners, my brother, I don't think that we have competent governors, we have competent commissioners in the state. Before a commissioner can just go inside the field and make out something that will go to military.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So that others can get involved in the conversation. Good morning. Your name and location.
Good morning, Moses.
My name is Wisdom Thomas. Go ahead.
Wisdom Thomas. Sorry. Good morning. My name is Eze. I am calling from Ukwa La Ngwa, Ukwa. Good morning, Dr. Max Ngwa. And good morning, Dr. Moore.
Yes, go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning. Yes, my contribution is that Dr. Max Ngwa has just stated it all. If Abians will buy into this idea, I think Abia State to be a better state. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your take. Still taking your calls. Good morning.
Good morning, Wisdom.
Good to have you. Join us. Name and location. Go ahead.
I am Dr. Pendadra. My name is Obama. I am calling from Bose, the hometown of the governor of Abia State 2020.
Just go straight to the point when you call. Tell us your name and location. Then go ahead with your point. Taking your calls at 8182694. Good morning.
Good morning, Wisdom.
Good to have you. Join us. Name and location. Your point.
Good morning, Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, all of you in the studio. I relate Mr. Prince Weleshagu from Monajobo. Wisdom and others in the studio. My question is this: in as much as the influence enemy cannot stop you from any political organization you belong to, rather what matters a lot is interest. The interest of Umunato, or what you call it there, don't you think it has a crack?
because of political interest. Most of you.
Mr. Princewell, did you follow the conversation before calling in? Did you listen to what we have already talked about this morning? Have you been following through?
Yeah, the little I've heard from Mr. Ndwagibe.
This morning? This morning?
Yes.
All right.
Now, if there's any crack in any organization, do you think that crack, that's my question now, do you think that crack will not be a slight to the common interests of this organization? These are my questions. May God bless you.
Thank you very much. I certainly do not think he followed through what we have been talking about this morning. Okay, let me turn to Dr. Max, and the campaigns is still up and running. It is still going to persist until the election takes the center stage. What is your advice to the different candidates and of course the political parties in terms of going about their business?
The political parties so far has done us proud. We haven't had any news of any disturbances, during campaigns and that kind of thing. That is very commendable. Let them continue in the same vein till the elections are over. Now, as for them, the candidates, we want them to come up with facts and figures, not empty promises. We've had it for too long. They should now come and tell us exactly with facts and figures how they are going to improve the fortunes of Abia State. Now, I don't know how much we know about the debt that Abia State is owing generally. Some of them will not be able to be paid by our great grandchildren. So if you can't tell us how you are going to pay salaries that have accumulated for some months or for some years, and during which period it will continue to accumulate, you are wasting your time. You are simply coming here to share revenues, whatever you get, straight into your pockets and walk away. That is not what Abia people want. Abia people want progress. Progress. And that is why we say that our two candidates so far must come out to show other people that they are capable of giving Abia State a good governance.
There is Dr. Max Ndwagibe, leader, Ukwa La Ngwa Council of Elders. Dr. Eugene Waha, what do you have to say as we leave the studio?
I will also talk in the same line. I will advise the political parties to adhere to Section 91 of the new Electoral Act, subsection 4, which makes it mandatory that everybody should be given the equal opportunity to campaign, to showcase what he has for the people, and that we should not run this Abia State as business as usual. We have to depart from what we have been doing before. You can't be doing the same thing all over again and expect a different result. Let us get at candidates now who can move this state forward. That is very, very important, and the electorates in Abia State are so worried that they want to have a change of leadership.
That is Dr. Eugene Waha, member of Ukwa La Ngwa Council of Elders. At this very point, it is us calling it time on the first half of the platform, the pinnacle of all discussions on Flow 94.9 FM, the flow of God's own state. But I have to sincerely appreciate Dr. Max Ndwagibe and Dr. Eugene Waha for being a part of the platform this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we're going a very short break. When we make a return, we will be tilting away from the issues about campaigning the state, and there is something else catching our fancy. I will let the cat out of the bag when it's time. Just stay with us.